Hello everybody! We are now 2 weeks into the release of Guild Wars 2, and a lot has changed on the structure PvP side, even though it doesn't seem like it. We've had a better look at the new map and balance changes from the last couple of stress tests, while also dealing with a few disappointments upon launch, such as broken tournament rewards, the flood of new scrubs, and our own lack of patience and unrealistic deadlines. Now, I didn't exactly go straight into SPvP on launch. In fact, I've still only played about 10 games since launch, hoping to fix that soon once I get some guildies together for tournament play. And I have to say, with no one playing tournaments since the rewards were down, I was not having a lot of fun. I couldn't focus on looking at my builds and being able to tell if they changed at all or not, because I could not find an enemy or two alone. This brings me to the first problem we are facing with this game: the scrubs and the pace that they are learning at. Many people in the beta were either already focused on SPvP or didn't want to explore PvE just so they wouldn't have to do it again. That would be me. So they spent all of their time learning as much as they could about SPvP in the little time they had to play. But the tournament was filled with excited teams that were mostly pre-made and had spent weeks or even months deciding on builds and team comps to try out. It was actually really intimidating until I put my brain to use finally and started putting the pieces together like the rest of them were doing. That competitive atmosphere was awesome and really inspired a good hardcore community that was ready to see this part of the game expand more. When I traveled to the Mists a few days ago, I couldn't even get a team together. All I heard was complaints about the flood of noobs that you get matched up with in tournaments. It was rare for our guild to not win the entire tournament, even though we really don't have any set teams or anything like that. So with no rewards and no skill required, they were just going to focus on World v World, even though at that moment it was kind of a joke for us too. So I went in to try some pugs at least, and test my character builds to make sure my alts were ready when I actually got a team together. I hate 8v8 as it is, but with the recent changes to some of the classes, it's impossible to test out our power builds and soft stuff like that when you never have coordination between teammates. A lot of classes really hurt since most of the newbies are going glass cannon, as we all did when we started out. So I ended up just focusing on my point defending professions, Engineer and Necromancer at the moment. Engineer went alright. I still think the Power Engie is more fun, but this works nice against 3 or so enemies. Necromancer was a bit more unsuccessful. Buildcast has made a good point in that in Guild Wars 2, defensive builds must also have some damage to go with it in order to take the least amount of damage. And right now, the Necro does not do that. Sure, they could take a lot of punishment because they're secondary health pools, but they do have to be able to make their enemies have to worry about themselves a bit too. I still think Wells might be a big part of the solution to that sometime in the future, but really, Necros just need some dev love. Necros need to be able to spit out more conditions in a shorter amount of time to synergize with their bleed duration traits and such. I vote more weapons. Also, I wish they would extend the range on all of the main hand dagger abilities, so we can also be able to spec into power and make our Death Shroud more powerful and make Lich Form a viable choice again, since they both scale off power. Okay, enough on that. Let's talk about the changes we got to look at since the stress test up till now. First, there was some changes made to the Mesmer and Thief. That changed everything for those professions. Holy crap, are they strong now. Thief had a few good tweaks that opened up a great support build for them, allowing them to do damage and buff their team immensely by being able to give all of their teammates bleed stacks on their next attack. This is amazing for teams that really work well on focus fire and melting one opponent at a time in a team fight. That buff and some good team targeting and you will drop instantly. Mesmers are also looking pretty good, as they got a great damage buff. Phantasms and Shatters do huge damage for power specs, and Confusion was given its damage back, so Mesmers have some good options for destroying their opponents. The changes seem a little strong at this point. It's hard to find a tournament team without both these professions right now, but I think it's mainly because it shows what professions are still lacking. And I'm getting the worst of luck, having picked both of them as my mains. Necros obviously have needed some attention for a while, but only now are we seeing that the Elementalist is lacking in damage slightly compared to other professions right now. I love playing the LA. and I still do really well with them, but I feel my role is really just a big ass crowd control machine that cannot die due to his high mobility and sustain. But in a 1v1 situation, I often see it as a stalemate, because they can't hit me enough because of my knockdowns and movement abilities, and I cannot outdamage their heals most of the time. So it becomes a battle of who will get reinforcements first. I never won that battle. But whatever. We'll see more changes soon. Just gotta keep practicing for now. We also got this new map, Raid on the Capricorn. Not much to say about it. It was similar to Legacy of the Foefire in that the new extra mechanic was so bad that everyone just ignores it. Even the pugs, no one captures the middle node until they have completely stomped their team. The sharks are a huge nuisance for type of combat we haven't even begun to look at in competitive format. I mean seriously. We went in going, well fuck. Underwater combat would be a completely new side to look at for builds and team comps, and with the damn sharks everywhere it was untestable and made us not want to bother with it. ArenaNet, give us warning next time. This is a competitive side of your game. We don't handle surprises very well, good or bad. Okay, well, we already talked about the flood of new people kind of mucking up the competitive side of the game at the moment, and the period of missing tournament rewards. So let's hit the final topic of the competitive community. Let the butt clenching begin. The first problem with the game is that it delivered so well in the betas that the competitive community has formed really quickly behind it. And just like waiting for the release of the game, waiting to make this game a full esport is killing us. ArenaNet has done a great job of taking mechanics from games we like and that are doing well in the esports community. And they have a good plan to make it all work. So we know how great the game will be when it comes out with its full server browser, private rooms that allow 5v5 for practice, and of course spectator mode. But it's weird seeing all these posts on the Guild Wars 2 esports subreddit claiming how disappointed they were that all these features aren't in the game after 2 weeks, or even that they didn't come out at launch. I mean, really? At 2 weeks, they're still wondering if their game will be successful enough for the amount of time and money they put into this. I mean, 2 weeks wasn't long enough to get our full review of Diablo 3, and look at how drastically that changed. No, with all the problems that have happened since day one, they are at least a month or so away before they'll even think about adding content to any part of the game. Enough things just need to be fixed so that the market doesn't crash and everyone can play all of the game. Also, you have to think of how long it takes to create these features. Going by their probable priority list, I think server browser will come first. And honestly, I have no idea when that will come out. They already knew it would be a feature in the game, so who knows how far in development that is already. So we could see it a month from now, or maybe 3. Now, I want you to repeat that to yourself. A month from now, or maybe up to 3. This is why I don't play SPvP that much yet. It's not ready. I'm dabbling in it a bit to get my skills up, tinker with builds, and have fun meeting other competitive teams. But mostly, I'm playing another game called Guild Wars 2 PvE. So if you are starting to get bored of pub stomping and starting to say, I'm not enjoying this game, play something else for a while. There are 2 other parts to this game that are just as fun. And you don't even have to do that. Since there's no subscription fee holding you to this game, you can play another game and keep checking in on Guild Wars 2 until you think it's ready for you to really sink your teeth back into. I'm probably going to hit a wall with PvE soon, and I already have Borderlands 2 as my backup with all my friends. You may really like SPvP at the moment, but you have to realize that if you bought this game for the SPvP only, you bought an unfinished game, by ArenaNet standards. Maps are still being thrown out at us as possibilities. The functionality of your friend or guild system is nowhere near the capabilities of PvE. I'm talking about grouping with them and setting up your own events. And there's no ranking system to actually show skill progression. I mean, they haven't even talked about putting in an ELO system yet, so who knows when that will happen. Just remember that ArenaNet only wants to give you quality. Think of how long it took League of Legends to put in their spectator mode. Almost a year after they announced it. Was it worth it? Yes. That attention to detail on the UI and features has boosted their esports scene tenfold. So I'm not expecting that until spring at least. But at least the server browser will be here sometime before that and we can get back to scrimming. Okay. That rant was a little long and had a lot of speculations. But the gist of it is, this will take time. More time than you might be willing to spend with all the pubs taking away from moving the competitive side of the game forward. So just relax, voice your opinions on how they are changing the game when they do, and enjoy all of Guild Wars 2 or even something else until you start playing SPvP more and more as it gets closer to becoming an esport. That's why I want to do all of this right here. I want to voice my opinions as ArenaNet creates updates so that we can discuss and learn as we get ready for the release of Guild Wars 2 SPvP esports. Oh my gosh, we made it. Alright everybody, that about does it for today's lecture. I know it wasn't exactly the most optimistic thing, and it wasn't what any of us wanted to hear. Trust me, I shed a tear every time I miss an amazing team fight during my recordings because my character is respawning and none of my teammates are recording. I want this just as badly as you do. But if you did like this video, feel free to click the like and subscribe buttons below. I hope to have a new scrim up and narrated for you tomorrow. Until then, thank you guys for watching and I'll see you next time.